If we can just introduce yourself, what do you do in life, and what's your experience with disability inclusion, but very briefly, like in 30 seconds. So.
So we're actually not inclusive school, we're just
specialized schools.
Specialized for disabilities.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hi, I'm the social media and account specialist at Disabilities.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of experience, but I would like to make our social media and digital presence more inclusive, so that's why I'm here.
We're hopefully gonna have a project together. We already now applied for a project together. So fingers crossed, we're still waiting. Okay.
Hello, my name is Kunal. I'm an English teacher at Disabilities as well. Also, I'm really interested in this summit because hopefully would be working on future project, and I usually try to always include like the concept of inclusion in my classrooms and language learning.
Great, thanks.
Hi, Milana Nasser. I'm a designer and I'm also a UX researcher, and I'm looking forward to the workshop.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes?
I'm Louise Vadeboncoeur. I work at CMA CGM, and I'm in charge of everything related to university relationships and partnerships.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Khalil Shayeb, Learning and Development Manager at CMA CGM as well. So diversity and inclusion is really at the heart of our culture, and we're here to see how we can attract talents, whoever they are, and how to develop them. Great,
great. So we're gonna wait just a couple of minutes for other people, and then we're gonna start. By the way, for CMS AGM, I know that we know this because we had some discussions. The company has one of the pillars is about doing impact, not only doing profits. So we know this very well, and we know that it's serious about that. So not only, I think, on a disability level, it's also on the food security level, on the social impact level. Yeah. Today we're going to get something important, especially on LLD, related to bringing in also the company inside, not only the L&D, CSR, or partnerships, but also how can we bring in more in CMS, for example, employees with disabilities. So it's not only outside activities, it can also be inside activities. Yeah. How to attract employees with disabilities, how to recruit them, how to retain them. Today we won't have time to cover everything, but it's going to be like a brief of every section. Yes. اهلا وسهلا فيكم. هاي كيف؟ ايه في السنتر فوق. يس الحمد لله. شو بعرفهم؟ هلو طلعوا طول السيشن عني. هاي الي لا الي بالمكتب. Okay, so لا قربوا ما تبعدوا كثير. At least واحدة. Okay, so I just need you to for the other people. Just introduce yourself. So yourself and your title, your role.
Okay. My name is Mona Maktabi. I'm the director of Next Step program at AUB.
Great. Can you please introduce?
I'm an instructor at Next Step, and I'm a clinical psychologist.
Great. Yeah.
I work as a special educator at Next Step
Cool. Very good friend of Prory. Okay, so we're gonna start the session. First, I'm Sfeir. I'm the managing director and trainer in inclusion within ProAble. So we're gonna go very brief in every section. You're gonna see it's gonna go a bit fast, but this is just an intro. If you need more in depth, we are here to support, whether NGOs, companies, on the every level. So first, why it's called ProAble? It's called ProAble because we believe that people that are disabled are actually professionally able. That's why we joined professionally and able. And the vision of ProAble is in the livelihood and education unit aiming to contribute in building an inclusive society. We're not building it ourselves. The most important part is contributing. So everybody contributes to build an inclusive society. How do we do it? We work in two ways. So we paved the way to normalizing disability inclusion. The experts would know this. Neither they are incapable, nor they are superheroes. So we need to normalize that disability inclusion is something that needs to become normal. How do we do it? We work with two main entities. So we have ProAble Academy. In the academy, we work with companies where we do consulting, training, building accessibility assessment, training the team with workshops, and supporting and creating a strategy for recruitment of people with disabilities, interacting with clients with disabilities, and how can we make our culture more inclusive. With universities, with universities, we have online courses, very short online courses, 2 to 4 hours, that we embed in courses, especially in faculties that have no clue about disability. So for example, we embedded in AUB, in the business school, for students that are studying business, essentials of disability inclusion. For students that study HR, if any one of you studied HR, you pass 4 or 5 years at the university, don't even take 4 hours of how to do an interview or assess a CV for someone with a disability. So we embed a small online course within this. We're currently providing this with 5 universities, 4 in Lebanon, 1 outside of Lebanon. And this is what we do on the academy. On the recruitment level, we support companies employ people with disabilities. This is straightforward. Through a team and a platform. And whether it's remote jobs or field jobs. Okay, we're going to start with a small exercise. Marianne will give you some sticky notes. Yes. Marianne will give you some sticky notes. One sticky note, just write one idea of, if I say persons with disabilities, what would you write? One idea. Anything, whatever comes to your mind. What would you think if I say person with disability? Okay, so we're gonna start with, before giving me your answers, we're gonna start with something called the 4 models of disability. Who's familiar with the 4 models? Okay, the 4 models of disability is the evolution of disability inclusion. And this is very important because without this, you won't have the mindset to go for the technical part. The technical part becomes easy if you have the mindset. So in the 60s, 70s, we had the charity model, where we would look at the person with disability in pity. So haram, this person cannot walk, this person cannot hear, this person has intellectual disability. We call it the pity party. So the pity party was very famous on that level, but this was very limiting because if you pity someone, that means you already judged that this person is incapable. Then evolution came where we thought of medical model. So the medical model thought only as a person with disability is someone that needs to be fixed medically. So this was the limits. Now, that doesn't mean that people with disabilities don't need medical support, but it doesn't mean that it's only medical support they would need. So then we moved into a much more advanced model, which is called human rights model, where society began to realize that it's not only to work with people with disabilities, but we also need to work on society to be accessible. So people without disabilities have something to do. They need to learn how to interact with people with different disabilities, have buildings accessible, open opportunities. All of these need to be done. And this is a human right. It's neither charity nor something medical. It's a right to be included in society. And here comes the word which is very important, which is accountability. When we speak about accountability, not only for people with disabilities or NGOs, but accountability of every person in every company. The social model complements the human rights model because it not only focuses on policies and strategies in the human rights, but also on activities. Someone in the L&D would be saying, okay, my role would be to bring in disability inclusion within my curriculum. Someone in an NGO would say, okay, I'm going to give the best programs to my students with disabilities to make sure they can have a good life afterwards, etc., etc. So this is this complementarity between social, human rights, where we evolved from charity, medical to social and human rights. Now something also very important is that it's okay to be in a, yes, total. So it's okay to be in a model, still maybe the idea would be in charity and medical, as long as you're willing to evolve into the model which is social and human rights. Mariam, please, the beyond quadrant.
When you say social and human rights, the social when you express on the pity, this is the sympathy, and the human rights is the empathy.
Yes, exactly.
So we have shifted from
charity,
sympathy to
medical.
empathy, which is a big difference with one letter that makes a
Familiar
big difference
cadran.
in performance.
Okay. So, so what we need to do is to move from this side, charity, medical, social, human rights based. My handwriting is terrible, that's fine. Okay, so what we need to do is to move from that side, from left to right. Thank you. So, long story short, impairment plus barrier equals disability. Impairment plus accessibility, and when we speak about accessibility, it's not only the building, but also the people, and also the platforms. For UX, UI, it's a huge domain. Equals inclusion. Inclusion is a right, again, so it's not a charity, it's not something that we do as a plus. Okay, now I'm going to ask from each of you, really fast, to tell me what did you write on your stickers, and then come and put your sticky note on the wall. And it's fine if it's medical and charity, it's fine, as long as you're willing to go into the next direction. Yeah, we're going to start. Challenge? Okay. So you can put it in, I think, in social. Yes, please. Further. Okay, Aya. Person with abilities. Social. تفضل. فوق بس لازقيها فوق.
I think we all talked about ability.
Abilities. Okay.
And I said create ability.
Create ability. This is, put it in the middle. It's social and human rights. On. So on. Okay.
They're falling back.
No worries. Yeah. Next.
When you told us to just write something about what you think, I reflected on my experience with the kids.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I wasn't that positive.
Yeah.
The others. So
Okay.
for me, it was social injustice because this is what I see.
Okay.
And underestimating potentials.
This is where.
That's what we see now.
Yes.
unfortunately.
I'm gonna put it in the middle because when you shift from social potential, when you shift the sentence from saying injustice, okay, it's a statement, so you can put it here if you want. Okay, so what's very important is to change the structure of how we think. So instead of saying I see injustice, how can I make justice? What can I contribute to make justice? Or you're already doing it. But this is very important to have this mindset is what can I do as even a small step towards inclusion. Next.
Special.
Yes. Special. Special is charity. Yeah. Because some people are special, some people are not. Hello. Hi. تفضلوا بس على السريع. Yeah. Okay, next. Yes, تفضل. Yes. ما بأثر. No worries. Okay, next.
I wrote how the society see them that they are inability.
Charity. يلا على charity.
I have challenges like the lady.
Challenge. Okay, social. Please, تفضل. Social. Eager to prove. Social. Because this is the first step. Okay.
Hello.
Yes?
I'm looking at limitation and environmental interaction.
Limitation.
And environmental interaction.
Okay, so it's also in the middle between charity and human rights.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes?
Differently abled.
Differently abled, the social. Anyone else or the others are new? Okay. So what we see, what's nice here, because we have some people that are familiar with disability inclusion, is that we see it all over the place. I was last week in Hungary giving a training. The charity part was stuck with yellow, with sticky notes. But what's beautiful is at the end of the program, regional managers were creating initiatives inside their companies. I'm gonna praise the company. It's called Diageo, if you know Diageo. So they began 2 or 3 initiatives, regional managers, about disability inclusion, because after the 2 days workshop, they went from here to here. And this is super important.
I can add illiteracy. Illiteracy can be added.
Illiteracy. Hey.
As from not the disabled, as the
Yes.
community towards
Many companies want to be disability inclusive, but they don't get the opportunity to do that. Okay, very fast, again, for timing. Kinds of disabilities. These are the main categories, but you have hundreds of reasons for becoming someone with a disability. Intellectual, people who look different. Psychosocial disabilities like bipolar, schizophrenia, etc. Sensory, so the 5 senses, hearing, visual, speaking. And physical disabilities, it's not only wheelchair users. It could be someone amputated, it could be someone with walking disabilities on crutches, etc. Well, what do we say very, very practically? What is this ability? It's non-ability to do one of the major life functions, which is working, self-care, walking, breathing, seeing, learning. So if you have one major disability for a basic life function, it is a disability. Now, visible, invisible. Who can give me, not the experts, who can give me an example of a visible disability? You can directly see it. Visible, you said? Like?
Like the different people physically.
Okay, so people with short stature, for example. Who can tell me an example of an invisible disability? Hearing impairment. So psychosocial. So if intellectual. So you could meet someone when you see them at the first time, you wouldn't know. So you need to interact with the person to know. So this is when we speak about visible, invisible.
Sorry, I want to ask something.
Yes.
Can you consider also the disorder in the personality, some people personality disorder? Is it also considered?
It's right here. Psychosocial disability. Schizophrenia, etc. No worries. Okay. Now, why recruit people with disabilities? Who can tell me? Why do we bother? I'm gonna be mean. Why do we bother recruit someone we don't know very well how to interact with, and why? Why would we as a company do it?
Because diversity gives richness to the company. When we are a diverse group, there are more ideas, more perspectives.
Mm-hmm. This is one, very important. Diversity has proven to bring profits for the company. Profits, financial profits, not only social profits and value. This is very important. Social is the priority, but it also brings financial. What else?
You know, in many NGOs and many, let's say, companies, they would have certain values.
Yeah.
Like one of them would be empathy, inclusion, diversity, and so on. So it's important when you state that you care about the human rights, it's important to have inclusion in your workplace as well.
Okay.
Even like people with disabilities, okay, maybe they cannot do this, but they would be maybe special in doing something else. So that's
Exactly.
why it's very important.
So bringing in a practicality to the values that we claim we have in our companies, in our NGOs, etc. What else? Yes?
You might be. It can also be a form of social corporate responsibility, because in the past, social corporate responsibility goes without any benefit to the organization aside the popularity it creates.
Yes.
Including people with disabilities in your organization.
Yes.
Is a part, it could be part of the corporate social responsibility of the organization.
Cool. I always see CSR as a gate. I don't see it as an end place. So in many places, the CSR manager from a company told us, okay, I'm gonna get you on board. Maybe from my budget, I'm gonna give the first trial in the company. But what's important is that you move from CSR to other departments. Because if it stays in CSR, it's charity. If it goes from CSR, which is great, to other departments, it becomes recruitment, it becomes marketing, it becomes accessibility. So it needs to go from CSR to other places. Yes?
Yes, I was simply saying that they simply can do the job.
Okay.
So why not?
Exactly. So it's honestly it's hidden talents. So we don't know that they have talents. Yes?
It reflects equality and equity.
Yeah, but what's the benefit? I'm going very practical. If you're a CEO of a company, you have numbers to achieve, you have profits to achieve. Social part for me and you is very important, but when you want to also showcase the other part, it's not the opposite. So social is very important, but there are business benefits of being having diversity and inclusion that we need to highlight for companies to tell them you're bringing in your social and your business profits together. So these are. It has exposure. It's called positive exposure. Akid. Yes. 100% more support, and they will be more into the SDGs, into everything. So I'm gonna go with why recruit. The misconceptions that why. So first misconceptions that I stated: they cannot work, they need a lot of support. Building accessibility is gonna be tens of thousands of dollars. And by the way, we do building accessibility. In most cases, it costs the company less than $1,000. In most companies. Now, hiring people with disabilities is a solution. Now we have someone from L&D, but especially the HR people, the challenge of the decade is turnover. So everyone that employs knows that you recruit, you do interviews, you recruit someone. Then you train them, you get them into the company. After 1 year, especially younger generations, after 1 year, 1.5 years, I want something else. And then you re-recruit, and then you retrain, and then you re-employ. So people with disabilities have, by statistics, 2.5 times the retention rate because they build their environment and they go inside. Reliable and dedicated, better awareness for safety. Due to the disability, we employed in one factory, which is, again, I give credit to the ones that employ. We employed in Indefco 7 persons with hearing impairment. But they started with one, they had safety concerns. Then they saw that this person is actually more concerned about his safety than the people without the disability. And he had less accidents. They re-employed 6 people. So with hearing impairment, because if you build your company or institution to welcome one person, it's the same to welcome 100 persons with the same disability because you already prepared the environment. Less recruitment effort, less training effort, less accident at work, more productivity, more diversity, and more belonging to the company. The World Green case, please check it out online. It's a beautiful case where in one of the factories, 40% were people with disabilities, diverse disabilities, due to a highly placed manager that had a son with disability. He challenged the company. The factory they were in ranked top 1 productivity among all World Green factories. So, and they reduced employment turnover to 15%, also for people without disabilities that felt this is part of our culture, I belong here. Again, consumers also prefer now to see, if you see in a coffee shop, or if you see in a bank or an insurance company, people with disabilities, you would see this company is something with culture. It is part of a highly placed culture. And of course, compliance with national and international policies. You know, there is a quota in Lebanon, which is 3%. There are quotas almost in every country of the world where it's between 3 and 5, some countries 7, but most of them 3 to 5% people with disabilities. Now, here I'm gonna go a bit again, so step by step but fast. How do we recruit people with disabilities? Okay, great, we love the concept, we're all for inclusion, we want to have inclusion in our companies or future companies for students. Some students, by the way, opened up doors for disability inclusion in their future companies or connections. 6 steps to do this. First step, job analysis. I'm gonna go later on the next steps. First, check your job vacancies, analyze them. So what are the tasks that you have in this job specifically? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Which tasks it's impossible to remove from this job? Impossible. So, dummy example, call center. If you're a call center, the task that you would never be able to remove from this job, what it is? What is it? Calling. You could remove maybe preparing the files if it's in a certain environment, but you cannot remove calling. If we're speaking about graphic designing, you cannot remove designing. You could remove you could remove the meetings with the clients. You could remove negotiation. You could remove printing, negotiating with the printing company, but you cannot remove design. So you put the tasks. This is the first step. You segregate them. You segregate them between essentials and non-essentials tasks. And then you can analyze the first filtering, which is everyone can do it as long as you do not discriminate, which is the only obvious ones. So for example, call center, which kind of disability is not possible for someone to work as a call center? Someone with hearing disability. Graphic design, visual disability. So you only make sure that, anyway they will not apply for this job, but you make sure that, okay, other kinds of disabilities, everything that is negotiable, you keep it. So if you say, okay, someone with partial visual disability, let's keep it. Maybe they have tools that enable them to do the job. Second step, we need to move as companies, and now companies worldwide are moving from what we call classic jobs to 2 kinds of jobs. First one is inclusive jobs, where you could remove some of the tasks and then it becomes acceptable for someone with a certain disability. I'm going to give an example. Accounting. Usually accounting, they do data entry, reporting, filing, preparation, and then putting files in folders in certain desks, and also going potentially to Ministry of Finance or going to some places to deliver reports. Yes. So this job, how can we make it inclusive for someone on a wheelchair? Who can tell me? Which task can we remove so that this job becomes accessible for someone on a wheelchair? Thank you. This is a real case. When they removed the task of filing, just putting the folders, on a wheelchair it's difficult for them to put. They added more data entry to the person, and the filing was delegated to another employee. The job became accessible for someone, which is a wheelchair user, and this wheelchair user was able to do the job. So this is what we call inclusive jobs. When we speak about task-based jobs, this is very, very new, and this has been also working, especially after COVID. So let's say you have 10 departments in your company. In the 10 departments, you have, in the accounting, a little bit of let's say, cleaning a database. In the marketing, cleaning database. In the operations, cleaning database. In the management, cleaning database. So what you do is that you consolidate all the tasks that are cleaning databases from different departments, and you bring in someone that's really good at cleaning databases, and they would do a task-based jobs connected to several departments. And this has been very active in remote jobs. So in many cases, you would see someone being, let's say, the assistant, online assistant in Turkey, working with a company in Dubai, and working with several departments as an online assistant, and being a wheelchair user. We are very happy to say that we have one person, a wheelchair user. We actually employ 70 persons per year with disabilities. But one person is a straightforward example. He's from Tripoli. He lives in Tripoli. He's a wheelchair user. He's now working with a company in Australia, working remotely, just with a really good high-speed connection. And the person is working with the company as an assistant in the coding department. He's not a web developer. He's an assistant in the coding department, testing, for the ones that know, testing, debugging, checking, etc. And then this person is getting paid from Australia. He removed the economic crisis barrier. He removed the accessibility barrier. And he's super happy building his life in Lebanon. So this is an example of task-based jobs that were selected. This is the current barrier for companies. I'm gonna ask, who's here from a company? Okay. How do you know how many CVs do you receive per year? Thousands. What percentage are persons with disabilities? Okay. I asked the same question with other two international companies. Some of them said almost zero. They receive out of 1,000, 0 persons with disabilities apply.
Yeah, not zero, definitely, because we usually
You promote it.
interview people.
Yes. No, I
The
mean
number, I don't know.
before the interview. So even before the interview, how many
No,
CVs?
they mentioned. They
Okay.
mentioned in their CVs that they have.
Great. When we make targeted outreach, it's not discrimination. It's called it's proactive communication or targeted outreach. We receive more people with disabilities. Again, because we want to give them the opportunity. It's about equity. So what do? What we need to do is when we have our posts, first we need to learn how to do our posts accessible. 1. 2, we need to mention one of those sentences to connect with people with disabilities. So persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply. Equal opportunity of employers. Our company is accessible for different disabilities. When we mention those sentences, people with disabilities would feel more motivated to apply.
Yeah.
Second, you need to make an extra step. So if you know NGOs that support people with disabilities, it's very right. It's not a discrimination. It's very right to go and knock on their door or send them an email. We have those job vacancies and we want to be an inclusive employer. If you can connect us with some of the people that you know, that would be great. In the previous approach, it was considered discrimination. Okay, I just posted on my website, everyone wants to apply, let them apply. This doesn't work. This gets equality, not equity. What we need is equity, which is equal opportunities. We worked with a UN agency. We provided them with training and support. They wanted to be more inclusive. In the first round of job vacancies, they got 2 applications from people with disabilities. After they made several small modifications, those sentences, reaching NGOs, reaching even in Proabled, we have a platform with 600 candidates ready to get employed. They received, in the second round, more than 35 CVs of persons with disabilities for another job vacancy. Small modifications make a big change in receiving CVs, because even if you learn how to do an interview with someone with a disability, if you don't get a CV from someone with a disability, what's the point? You just had new skills that you will never use. Third, collaborating with the right institutions. One example is Proabled. In Lebanon only, we don't do it outside of Lebanon. We have a platform with 600 CVs of candidates screened, ready to get employed. So the company contacts us. We have a team that checks their CVs, contacts them, make sure that get you 2 or 3 candidates for your job vacancies. And this is free of charge. We do it in Lebanon free of charge. So for remote or live jobs. Okay, I'm gonna showcase. We'll have time. Okay, we have time. Okay, I'm gonna send you the video later on. Fourth step, so we analyze our job, we know if it's an inclusive job or not an inclusive job. We know how to post it, we collaborate with the institutions. CV screening. Scan the candidate's CV based on his qualification. First step for any employer, don't focus first on the disability. Maybe the person's disability is not a barrier for the job, but his qualifications are a barrier. So if you need English language in the job, and the person does not know English, and the person does not know English, even if the disability is not a barrier, you need English. So at least the minimum needed in the job. So first, don't consider the disability, consider the other parts. Second, some persons with disabilities mention their disability and some don't. It's different schools, we call it. In some schools they say yes, mention it, and in some schools don't mention it. Both ways, you're gonna learn how to do an interview with someone with a disability. And at no time are you expected to hire an employee who is unable to perform the job. This is charity. If the person is not able to do the job, you don't employ them. However, if there is a possibility that they would do it, give them a chance. If you're not sure, this is a yes. If you're sure they cannot do it, this is a no. Okay, before selecting a candidate, analyze the job description. We went back to the job description of the task. Okay, they said they have mobility challenge and this is a labor work. So dexterity, good movement of hands, is it needed? If it's needed, then they cannot do the job. If it's not needed, then they can do they can access the possibility. Ability to perform physical effort, hearing and visual ability, cognitive requirements. What's very important, as we said, if you're hesitating, go on and do the first interview. If you're definitely sure that this person cannot do it, then you can remove the CV. But if you're hesitating, it's a yes. If it's a yes, it's a yes. Okay? Okay. Interview guidelines. We're gonna play a small game. We used to say, we didn't used to say, they used to say in the 80s, the handicapped, the deformed, the defective. What is the right wording to say? Because sometimes we hesitate. What do we say? So what do we say?
Person with disability.
Person with disability. Why?
Because he's a person first.
Thank you. Okay. Nothing to add. Nothing to add.
Because in the States they used to talk about them as special needs, and then they said we all have special needs. So they refer to them as disabled.
Persons with disabilities. The core is a person. Because it's not their identity as a disability. Their identity is a person and they have a disability. So based on this, instead of saying affected by, suffers from or victim of, what would we say? So affected by a disability, suffers from a disability. This is more like which model? What does it remind you of? Which model? Charity. What would we say? So if we say it very simply, what would we say? Has a disability. As simple as that. Simplify, normalize. Confined to a wheelchair, wheelchair bound. Instead of saying confined to a wheelchair or wheelchair bound, what do we say?
On a
Wheelchair user. Again, it's simple, it's not difficult. Okay, now we're gonna give few tips and techniques on when you do an interview with someone with a disability. Okay? So, if you're meeting someone with visual impairment, and let's say the person is already in the room and you're going in, it's very important that you introduce yourself because the person cannot see you. So, you knock on the door. Hello, I'm Samer. I'm going to be interviewing you today. Nice to meet you. So, it's very important to introduce yourself, especially if there are several people coming in the room. When seating them, there is a technique that we can do. Okay, who can help me? Yeah. So if there's someone with visual disability coming in, so consider I'm someone with visual disability. I'm going in. Okay, and Aya is gonna interview me. Okay, so first there's something that always happens, an awkward moment. So if I'm going in, I have a visual disability. Would Aya shake my hand, but I cannot see her hand hanging. So what do we do? How do we shake hands? How do we shake hands with someone with visual disability? It could create an awkward moment. So I have my hand hanging. Do we shake hands? Do we not shake hands?
We put the hand on the shoulder. We guide, no? We don't.
We wait. So I'm someone with visual disability. Okay, Aya says, hello, I'm Aya. If I say, hi, I'm Samer, then you shake their hand. If I don't, you just continue the conversation. To avoid awkwardness, wait. What would the person do? And then you react accordingly. Now, when seating someone with visual disability, how do you seat someone on a chair if it's an interview and I go in, I'm alone, I don't have an assistant? How do you seat someone with a visual disability on a chair? Okay.
Make the noise.
If you would ask them, always ask, do you need any support? Do you need me to support you? If they say yes, please, usually you put my hand, you don't seat me, you put my hand on the back of the seat. Every person with visual disability, if they have the back of the seat, they can maneuver and sit. So the easiest way is just to put the person with the hand on back of the seat. If you want to support in movement, what's very important is that person with visual disability would grab your hand above the elbow, and then we can move. Why above the elbow? Because if you're going up the stairs, this part is fixed, while this part is movable. So if you could go up the stairs and do this, and the person would not know that there are stairs. While if they grab you from here, thank you, Aya. If they grab you from here, they would know that you're going up, so they would know there are stairs coming in. And offer to read written information, very important in an interview. So I will read for you the job task or the job description, etc. Some tips, these are very few tips. Usually we give this workshop in 3 to 4 hours, but here we're giving just a glimpse of everything. Tips and techniques on how to interview someone with hearing disability. Make sure to ask how they prefer to communicate. Always keep a paper and a pen beside you. So if you're doing an interview with someone, most probably you don't know sign language. You can interact with the person and make sure you articulate well so they can lip read. If they lip read, they already understand 30 to 40% of what you're saying. If there are words where you get stuck in the conversation, don't nod. So if someone with hearing disability says, I want to have a full-time schedule. You didn't understand full-time. You stop them. Please repeat. They will say full-time. If you still don't understand, rephrase. A job with 8 hours, 9 hours. So they use a different way. And at the end, if you still don't understand, please write it on the paper. So the word that you didn't understand. Don't overcomplicate things. So make sure that this is how you can interact with people with hearing disability. Don't over-articulate. If you over-articulate, it's more difficult for them to understand the lip reading. Articulate well, don't put your hand in front of your mouth, and ask the person to repeat when you have trouble understanding. Okay. Tips for people with persons with mobility disability. Be at eye level. You need to make sure that when you do the interview, you're sitting, because the person is already in a wheelchair. For a half an hour interview, just having the neck looking up, it's painful. So we need to make sure to have it on a certain level. Speak in a normal voice tone, and very important, do not move the wheelchair out of reach. We see it not in an interview. We see it in some cases where you have people in the office, super organized. They want to see things really in a good place. So someone on a wheelchair could have their wheelchair beside them, and they're sitting on a regular chair, just to grab it. And the person that is very organized doesn't know. And then he moves the wheelchair. This place is more fitting. It's more organized than the room. And then the wheelchair will become out of reach for the person. So with the wheelchair is part of the body of the person with the disability. And also, something super important for all kinds of disabilities, a golden rule. If you want to support Okay, I'm going to ask you the question. If you're going into taking an Nescafe with the colleagues, and there is a person on a wheelchair and there is a small ramp, it could be a bit difficult. Would you support them in going up to the coffee break place? Would you not support them? Maybe they will do it on their own, but can they do it on their own? Do they have the strength to do it? I ask, I don't ask, what do I do? I ask, who says I don't ask?
انا I don't have the courage. طبعا اتفضل.
Okay.
بقدر اقول انه مثلا بركي كمان صراحه انا كلمه disability ما بحس يعني ما بحب يشوف انه انا لا شويه بحس بشارتي يعني في ناس بتشاركي بعيني ما بحب اشيلها.
Okay, we need, okay. Thank you for sharing this. Yes.
We may ask him or she, would you like to have coffee together without mentioning anything about the wheelchair as an issue?
Okay, thank you.
هلا رأيي إنه يعني we try in the beginning to examine يعني we check are they finding any difficulty or anything. يعني if we see them that they are facing a difficulty يعني we try to offer يعني.
Okay. Yes.
I think the best thing is always to ask, because when you assume that they need assistance, you are undermining their autonomy,
Yes.
independence.
Yes.
So it is very important that you get interactive with the person to find out the particular limitation the person had and the assistance the person needs.
Great. The right answer is this. The golden rule is ask. Do you need? We're gonna go together, have a coffee break. Do you need any assistance to go with us? Maybe the person would say, yes, please. I cannot go up the ramp, so I need your support. They would say, no, I can make it on my own, but thank you. In 5% of the cases, people would get offended because these 5% are oversensitive, answering your question. The 95% are not. But among people without disabilities, wouldn't you find 5% that are oversensitive in your companies, in your environment? So if you ask and the person gets offended, it's their problem, not yours. Because you cannot discriminate the 95 remaining ones because this person made a wrong reaction to your question. You asked very respectfully, hello, we're going to a coffee break, would like to have you with us. Would you need any support? What you asked is right. If they react in an oversensitive way or they see it as a charity, it's their problem. Because if you do not ask, you're discriminating the 95% others that cannot go with you on a coffee break. And this is one of the top reasons why people with disabilities are not being recruited, are not being interviewed, because HRs and managers and institutions fear to hurt the person, so they avoid the person, which is the biggest level of hurting the person. Do you know the level of unemployment of people with disabilities in Lebanon? Who can tell me? Level of unemployment of people with disabilities in Lebanon. Just state an
I guess 50.
unemployment. 80. Okay.
50%.
I wish 50%. I wish. 85% unemployment. So out of 100 persons with disability, 85 are not employed. I prefer, and I'm responsible for what I'm stating, do an interview, make minor mistakes, learn and do the journey and employ someone, rather than being fearful of hurting and doing the minor mistakes and doing the biggest judgment on them, which not employing them.
I have a question. 50 or 80 or 100%, you have to ask also the employer, is he ready and set up, making a setup to receive all kinds
This is what we're doing. This is the social model.
The two ways.
Of course. When we work with companies, we work with people with disabilities and work with companies, and then you do the matching.
Because you have the physical and you have the interpersonal.
Of course. You have the people and the building. Definitely. Okay, step 5. Here we're going to play a game of right or wrong. Do we put the candidate at ease and allow them to have support person or aid with them, or no? Yes, correct. In the first contact, never validate the type of disability with the candidate. Never mention that there is something related to disability in the first interview. Is it right or is it wrong? Wrong. There is a sentence that's used as is in French, but I'm going to translate in English. It's given by the public sector to the companies to use. You do not ask them, how did you have your disability? What accident did you have? This is personal. But you would ask, What accessibility do you need to perform your work at your best? And this becomes the duty of the candidate to say, okay, I have a hearing disability. If I can have, so let's say for alarms in a factory, if you can have a light in the alarm, this would increase my safety. If I have visual disability, if a certain screen, which is a wider screen, could help me if I have partial visual disability. When you ask about accessibility, it's your right because it's your entity and it's about work. So what accessibility do you need to perform your work at your best? Okay, we're going to be ending in a few minutes. Ask questions that focus on the person's experience and the ability to do the job. Do we focus on the ability to do the job, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, of course, because it's normalizing. It's like everyone else. Avoid asking the person interviewed if they need any adjustment to complete the interview or to do the job. Wrong. You need to ask them, do you need any adjustment to do the interview? Accompany the candidate on a workplace visit so they understand the job better. This is advisable. Okay? So maybe some people do it, some people don't do it. But if you employ someone, it's good to make them visit, especially like these are the accessible bathrooms. This is a spot in the parking space where it's for people with disabilities, etc. Interviewing candidates with disabilities, it's totally different from interviewing any other candidate. It's partially different. It's not fully different. Request collaboration from the interviewed candidate to understand their disability and its implication. Of course, as long as it's related to the job, it's your right to ask it. Hiring a person with disability is an act of charity. Please, nobody answer that it's the right thing to do. It's the wrong thing to do. Avoid hurting feelings of persons interviewed by asking if they understood what's expected from them. This is wrong. They are not super fragile people where you need to avoid them, because super fragile equals avoiding. The candidate should know the policies of the company regarding employees with disabilities. Should we explain to them what is the company policy related to disability inclusion?
Yes.
Definitely. Okay. When you adopt a hiring and promotion policy including persons with disabilities, this is very important, and you will learn. You have a learning curve. You will not be experts then employed. You need to learn the essentials then employed, then you learn more. And what works for one person with a certain disability works for 100 persons with a disability. We're not going to have time for the simulation. These are the 4 levels of inclusion. And you need to check where are we as person, as a company or organization. Unaware, so disability inclusion is not even on our agenda. We're going to discriminate them by default, and we don't care. Second level, okay, there is a rising awareness, testing some pilot projects. There is discrimination. We know that it's there, but we don't track it very well, and we need to make sure to go one step further. Level 3 is where we begin taking workshops on disability inclusion, knowing more, making our building at least with a minimum accessibility, if it's not full accessibility. Employing people with disabilities, getting interns with disabilities. This is very important. If we can get on board interns with disabilities, we would learn, they would learn, everybody benefits. And we're beginning to build a disability inclusion strategy. This is where we could be. And the ultimate one is we are a disability inclusion company, disability inclusive company or organization. We want to build more in the impact. We claim it, we recruit. We really are one of the pioneers in this, but also we go into our value chain and supply chain, so our distributors, if we're a company, we encourage them to do a collaboration for them to become more inclusive. Our marketing agencies we work with, if they need to learn inclusive communication, because us as a client, we require it. So we become creating a ripple effect, not only on our own entity, but also on the entities we work with. And this is where we become advocates of disability inclusion, not only as persons, could be inside an institution as a person, but also as an institution to other institutions. I'm going to stop here. We're almost done. Any fast question before we close?
Most of the examples that you have given, if not all, are about
No, we mentioned hearing, we mentioned visual.
no, wait, I mean, we did not talk anything, we did not mention anything related to intellectual disability.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you as a professional
these individuals to belong to this community. Is it the same challenge that you face when you want to approach a workplace to hire somebody with intellectual disability, the same like other disabilities?
Okay.
Yes or no?
It's different challenges, but every disability has its own challenges. We work with the ladies on everything related to intellectual disability. So, and they are experts in job coaching for this specific type of disability. And Aya, if you want to share in 30 seconds what we do.
Actually, people having intellectual disabilities have the right as well to get employed on and having their own work. So it's challenging, but we have the same system.
Exactly. And we're succeeding. Like how many people are now employed from the program? I think 7, 8. Okay, 7 or 8 people with intellectual disability are employed in different companies, catering, hotels, companies, etc. Of course, it needs job follow-up and job coaching, which is what Claudine and Aya have expertise in. Yes, and the follow-up is continuous. However, they are being productive in the companies they are in. Company is winning, they are winning. Of course, it needs more support. However, it can happen. So yes, it works. Yes, it happens. Today is a very short time to go in depth into this, but thank you for asking this question. And every type of disability is not a barrier if you find the right job and the right tasks. Yes?
I don't know, in the context of the Lebanese legal framework, whether there exist tax holidays for companies that employ people with disabilities. Because
there is a law. There is a law called Law 220. Now it's being updated. It states that every company needs to employ 3% of their, at least 3% of their team to be people with disabilities. Usually they made it like a penalty. If you don't employ, you get a penalty or a certain fine. It's not being applied, unfortunately. And I wish what you said is happening, which is not only a penalty, but an incentive.
Yeah.
Which is in Netherlands, it's incentive. Germany, it's incentive. There is a penalty, but there is an incentive. Like if you're a company, you would be more encouraged to employ people with disabilities because you have incentives on all levels to be a more inclusive institution. But also there are the benefits not from the law. If you're an inclusive company, internally we spoke about it. Externally, you become a part of networks related to SDGs, related to impact, related to inclusion, where it could benefit you a lot as an institution to get exposure, to get network, to connect with other institutions. So incentive is very important to get you into inclusion. I fully agree. Yes, but very fast. We have 1 minute. Yes.
Follow-up question.
I want to ask for practical or something that we can do. For example, for we have lots of graduates.
Yes.
Hearing disabilities, visual disabilities, sometimes a mild mental disability. So how can we help them?
Yeah.
You mentioned everything about the companies, how they can recruit. But what about from the side of the students or the graduates, for example? What can we do? Can you suggest something?
Yes. There is a program that we do. It's called Work Readiness Program, where it's post-education or complementary to education. How to search for a job, how to do an interview, how to make your CV as someone with a disability. So you have, and you could do similar programs or our program, whatever. Okay. So it prepares them to be ready because they need to be ready and the company needs to be ready. Yeah. So usually work readiness programs, and we should ask ourselves why there is a career center in every school, but in specialized schools we could not have a career and post-education. So for universities center, at least one person doing this. Thank you for asking. Last question. You have a question too.
Transport.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 questions.
Okay, so in the end, like if I want to go back to the first activity that we did, if I want to relate like the idea when I hear like the word like disability or anything, so based on the Human Rights Board, so the right word, it would be a person with a disability.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. And English language is one of the major needs for people with disabilities. We made a study recently with 300 persons with disabilities. One of the major barriers of not being included into jobs, because every job needs now at least a minimum of English. If you're putting products on a shelf, you need to be able to read what is the product. And if you're an accounting manager or financial manager, you need English. So English, I would encourage you to work a lot in English. We're going to speak about this. With Amadis, we have this. Last question.
Commuting is very important, back and forth to work, because they have special needs. And in
Yeah.
every country, it's a different level.
Of course.
So this is very critical.
One of them, as long as we work on also in employment in proximity. So if you're close, it's less cost on transportation. Also, now remote jobs is a big opportunity for people with disabilities. I give you the example of a person in Tripoli working with a company in Australia. Why not a company in Beirut hiring someone? I'm giving random regions. It's just Zine, and this someone is on a wheelchair working remotely with a company in Beirut or an NGO. So also NGOs are employers. We forget sometimes this, that NGOs are also employers, and not only on the impact outside, but also on the impact inside. Okay, I'm going to end on this note. Thank you very much for attending this session. For the ones that did not write their names, please write your name on the attendance list. It was a pleasure giving you the workshop today.
Thank you.